Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling strangely unsettled, even though nothing openly aggressive happened? You're not exactly angry, and you're not sure you were insulted either, but something about the interaction keeps replaying in your mind. Maybe the other person twisted your words, maybe the conversation somehow became your fault, or maybe you left feeling guilty without really knowing why. Moments like these are often the first quiet signals of psychological manipulation, and the unsettling part is that it rarely looks obvious while it's happening. Manipulation in real life is rarely loud or dramatic. Most people imagine manipulation as something clearly malicious, but in reality, the most effective manipulators operate in subtle ways that are difficult to detect in the moment. They don't always shout, threaten, or openly control situations. Instead, they use quiet psychological tactics that slowly shift how you think, how you feel, and eventually how you interpret reality itself. Over time, these small distortions can make you question your own judgment, your emotions, and even your memories. Psychologists often describe this pattern as covert manipulation, a form of influence that works beneath the surface of normal conversation. What makes it particularly dangerous is that it frequently comes from people we trust or care about. It might appear in friendships, romantic relationships, workplaces, or even family dynamics. Because the person may still seem kind or supportive on the surface, the manipulation becomes harder to recognize. Many people live with these patterns for years before realizing what has been happening.
You're tired. You're exhausted. You're about to quit. Now. But what if this is the test? What if you're one step away from something that could change? From everything you've been chasing. Most people quit a few inches before the finish line. Don't stop now. You've come too far to only get this far. Your time is closer than you think. Built.In.Silence.
Gaslighting is a psychological strategy where someone deliberately distorts reality in order to make another person doubt their own perception. Instead of directly controlling your actions, the manipulator attempts to control your understanding of what actually happened. At first, the behavior might seem small or harmless. You might clearly remember something that was said or done, but the other person calmly insists that it never happened. They might tell you that you misunderstood the situation, that you're exaggerating, or that you're simply being too sensitive. When this kind of response happens once, it might feel like a simple disagreement about memory. But when it becomes a repeated pattern, something deeper begins to happen psychologically. The human brain naturally wants consistency and clarity, so when someone repeatedly challenges your perception of reality, you begin to question yourself instead. You might start wondering if you really did misunderstand the situation. Maybe your emotions were too strong. Maybe your memory isn't as reliable as you thought. This gradual erosion of self-trust is exactly the goal of gaslighting. Once a person begins to doubt their own perception, they become much easier to influence. The manipulator gains control over the narrative because their version of events starts to feel more reliable than your own. Over time, the victim may even begin asking the manipulator for confirmation about what actually happened, unknowingly giving them even more psychological authority. Another reason gaslighting is so effective is that it often develops slowly. Manipulators rarely begin with extreme lies. Instead, they subtly shift details, reinterpret conversations, or deny small events until a pattern forms. For example, you might confront someone about something hurtful they said, expecting a simple discussion. Instead of acknowledging it, they might respond calmly by saying that they never said that at all. If you insist, they may add that you're twisting their words or misremembering the situation. Suddenly, the focus of the conversation changes. Instead of discussing the original problem, you find yourself defending your own memory or trying to prove that the event happened. The original issue fades into the background while the manipulator quietly redirects the narrative. Over time, this pattern can create something psychologists refer to as cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict between what you experienced and what someone else insists is true. Because constantly defending your own reality is emotionally exhausting, many people eventually stop arguing. They begin to accept the manipulator's version of events simply because it feels easier than maintaining the conflict. At that point, the manipulation has already succeeded. The most powerful form of control isn't physical force. It's psychological influence over how someone interprets reality. Once a person begins to doubt their own perception, they slowly start relying on someone else to define what is real and what isn't.